Hi, Lida. Welcome to the UKAI Women in AI podcast. Thank you for joining us today. Please, could you go ahead and introduce yourself to the people watching and listening?
Sure. And first of all, thanks so much for having me, Zahra. I really love what you're doing here is building this network of women who have diverse interests in artificial intelligence. Um, to introduce myself, my name is Lida Cepuch. I'm a Canadian, but I've lived in the UK for about for most of my career. I'm a proud University of Waterloo computer science graduate. That's not so meaningful for your UK listeners, but anybody in North America or Asia will actually know Waterloo quite well. Waterloo is a cooperative education university, which means you alternate your study terms on campus with work terms. So it means that you graduate with 2 full years of experience. And I went to Waterloo because I felt like it was my best way of actually getting into business as early as possible. That was my real driver. After I finished my work terms, I joined Bankers Trust through a contact. I had done data science actually in all of my work terms, but when I joined Bankers Trust, they needed someone with my technology skills. And it was a very sort of fortuitous move. Bankers Trust was just entering the derivatives market at the time, and I was really intrigued by the development of that marketplace and the need for technology to drive finance. So that was one of the earliest examples where technology was really the enabler, as it were, for the modeling that was needed for derivatives and the management of the portfolios. From there, I moved to London and I moved through a merger to Deutsche Bank, where I ran the alternative investments group. That was the group that traded all the large, complex, cross-correlation and very illiquid underlying derivatives that were listed on markets across Europe. We sold those to fund managers and to high net worth individuals. That took a lot of management because I had remote employees, which was, less usual back then. We quite often had to make decisions without full knowledge or full data, especially on sort of quite big days in the market, as it were. And we really, really needed to constantly upgrade our technology. And that's actually where my skills were really, really useful. From there, I transitioned into governance roles. And the first role that I sat on, or the first board that I sat on, was the Luxembourg CCAV company that Deutsche Bank had opened to facilitate some of our derivative trading. And from there, I moved into actually what's been about 25 years of governance roles. I currently sit on the board of an alternative investment manager that is UK regulated, where I've worked on the AI strategy. And in parallel, I've run a pro bono stream of governance roles where I use my skills, which are really finance and technology, risk management, in the education sector, because those skills are less available there. And I can really have impact. I currently sit on the board of, it's called the Root Panel, actually, of the now called Skills England, but the old Institute for Apprenticeships and Technical Education in the finance, legal, and accounting area, where we approve all of the apprenticeships. There, I do, as I always do, advocate for making sure that we have adequate funding for these programs, that everyone has access to them, and that no matter who you are and what gender you are, where you come from, you have an equal chance of being successful. Mm-hmm. So I have 4 children, 3 of whom are working and 1 of whom is at university. 2 of them, a girl and a boy, have followed me into financial services, although they don't do my area. One does insurance and one does corporate banking, but very proud that they've gone in. And I'm half Ukrainian, actually, which is right now relevant. So my grandfather from Lviv, which is very famous for its sort of math and technology infrastructure there, is someone who really inspires me. I was actually there not long ago, and I attended a dual use conference where I went specifically to see how AI was being used in these dual use technologies. And it really made me come away with a renewed sense of how we need to make sure that we've got the right technology and the right underlying data, etc., for the use of AI, or it won't be successful, actually.
Mm-hmm. Oh, you are a super lady. Very inspiring journey. And it's sort of, I'm very curious, what inspired you to choose this career path? And it seems that your journey has almost slightly pivoted as well along the way. Was it something you planned when you went into governance and board roles, or did it organically happen?
That's really interesting you say. I think all of it's been organic, to be honest with you. But I would sort of go back to the fact that there are three things that I'm really passionate about: technology, finance, and education. And even though it may seem like pivots, those are these sort of underlying foundational sort of themes that run through all of the time. So my first introduction to computer science was a long time ago, I will admit. In my high school, they offered for the first time a computer science course, and we actually were given little math problems, much like we would have done in our math courses at the time. But we turned them into little computer programs, and we punched cards, and then the cards had to be sent out to a local college to be compiled, and then our results would come back later. But I absolutely loved it, and I was totally hooked on that. So when I was choosing my university, I looked around, and that's why I went to Waterloo, because Waterloo offered the premier computer science teaching and math teaching embedded within their math faculty at that time. And I loved being there, actually. I'm still a very proud alumna, and still sort of in contact with them and work with them. While I was there, I was elected president of the Mathematics Society. And as a result of that, I was asked to join a council that had been struck to advise the president on how we might increase the number of women on campus, because Waterloo is famous for its computer science, but engineering. And at that time, only about 15% of the students were women. We commissioned a study, and the study came back and demonstrated that we really needed to address this issue at about age 11 or 12 for girls, because at that point, a few things happen. Math gets a little bit harder, but also, especially in a mixed school, girls naturally will be less competitive. That's their psychology. It's nothing to do with parenting or anything. So you need teachers that are really familiar with the dynamic that's taking place at the time to encourage the girls to have their confidence and the resilience to keep going. And that's how we will get more women into technology, actually, or it's one of the ways. It's not the only way. So that was really pivotal for me. I didn't understand the challenges that had happened. My dad was a teacher, so I never had any choice about performance, really. At the same time, I was taking a computer ethics course, and I still have that textbook. It's the only one I kept. It was a paper that had been written in France, actually, in, I think in the 70s or 80s, about the sort of challenges of technology and how that might change society. And so on the one hand, I was, on this council learning about the need for what we needed to do to increase diversity. And on the other hand, I was in this class that was teaching me about the need for diversity, for our decision-making, the good of our society. So it was a really interesting juxtaposition, and it's a lesson I've taken with me everywhere I've gone. I ended up in financial services through my technology skills. So when I finished my work terms, through a contact, I was offered this role, but I loved it. It was the beginning of a new business. It needed technology, as I said earlier, and it really appealed to me, that idea of developing something. And that really was the way I sort of entered that career path that I stayed on for all that time. Mm-hmm. There was this natural transition into governance that happened. It wasn't really planned, but I was on the team that built the company that I first sat on the board of. we had been working on it for quite a long time. It was a complex problem to solve. And so because I led on the risk management side, they asked me to sit on the board to offer that sort of expertise there, which was, it's really needed for these companies. I stayed for quite a while, actually, but you need to be located or you need to travel to Luxembourg to sit on their boards. And when I had my fourth child, there was going to be a hiatus on that, so I left. But it was a really interesting time developing it. We took it from literally zero to having billions of dollars of underlying and launching the first hedge fund-based derivative, basically globally, in the form of a sort of what's called now an ETF.
That's amazing. Actually, I'm familiar with the University of Waterloo and their amazing computer science department because my sister went there.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. They have managed, to sort of, as a result of the work we did on that commission, they're not at 50% quite yet, but they've got much closer. So, we knew it was a long-term problem that would take time, which is a lesson for all of us around this. There are no short fixes on this problem. In order to increase gender diversity, you actually need a fair bit of time and, a long-term strategy that people just keep working away at. So I'm very glad to hear it. But Waterloo's done a good job of bringing a lot more women in.
Definitely. And I must say, she's also an inspiring lady like yourself. She's at Electronic Arts. She's a senior technology leader there. And she speaks very highly about her time at Waterloo. Yeah.
Oh, it's very unusual to run into somebody here who actually knows it. So it's lovely. It's lovely to hear that story.
I'm happy if you ever wanted me to introduce you to her, I'll do that as alumni.
I'd love to. Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
And then also while you were explaining your journey, I wondered what are some of the key challenges that you faced and how did you overcome those challenges?
Right. Well, as you know, with any career, there are always challenges. So I've not had fewer than anybody else. I think that for me, working in a male-dominated environment was a challenge. I started in the 80s, and we didn't have a lot of the rules that protect us now that existed back then. But I think I've been very fortunate, even though, especially as a junior woman, I did run into some of the sort of challenges that one hears about. I always had male colleagues that on the other side were supportive, mentored me, and made sure that I was an equal member of the team. So it was balanced. I had the challenges, but I also had the support. So for me, I count myself as being very fortunate because I know not all women have always had that. I think I was a little bit fortunate in that having been at Waterloo in a very male-dominated environment, I already had a bit of experience around working in that environment when I joined. So I had a few tricks that I used to survive, as it were. And therefore I sort of got through those initial years where it's really challenging and where I was able to continue to advance through my career and not have to give up, I think that one of the huge challenges I had actually was about 6 months after I joined, we had Black Monday. I don't know if you know what Black Monday is, but the huge stock market crash that happened in 1987. So, I was quite junior at the time, but I was the assistant to really the main book runner. And so we worked, I don't know how many hours that day, probably all day, all night, in the most pressured environment that you can imagine because it was unexpected. Nobody entered the building that morning knowing what was about to happen. But it was a real lesson to me about chaos and how you deal with it, making decisions with imperfect information, just protecting your assets and making sure that you have them at the end of the day, if you possibly can. And I've used that lesson over and over again. So on 9/11, for instance, I walked onto the trading floor late that day because I'd actually dropped my daughter for her first day at nursery. And so, the trading floor was already in sort of a disrupted state when I entered, but I didn't know what was going on. But I had to click into that, sort of reflex that I have now, and I use that a lot in dealing with difficult situations still to this day. I think the final challenge that I faced, and you said you wanted people to be open here and talk about it, was that one of my children is disabled, actually. So when he was born, that was something I knew very little about, nothing actually. And I really had to adjust to that situation. But I've, again, found my, if you want to call it, tribe of mums who also have those challenges, who work. And, our children are now quite a bit older, in their early 20s, and living their own lives. So I think we've done a successful job, but it was something to navigate as well, Those are really the things that I've had to navigate through my career, aside from those transitions that you've talked about. But I think everyone has those.
Mm-hmm. And it seems to me that mentorship and allyship and a support network has been important for you to really thrive, and to almost, the way you explained it, you managed to turn challenges into opportunities. You saw them, you carried on despite the difficulty. So it's almost, you turned it into an opportunity. Would you say when you did that having the mentors or people who were there to maybe guide you, inspire you, did you have people like that to support your journey?
Absolutely. I am really, I really nurture my network. I've learned the value of it, and it's not because I'm always trying to get something out of it. That's not why I value my network so highly. I think it's the other side. When I need something, I know I have people that I can turn to advise me or support me, or just give me a different view on the things that I'm looking at. Sometimes I know that perhaps the problem that I'm facing doesn't really play to my strengths, and I need somebody else who I know, plays those strengths much better. And so I'll turn to them, have a long conversation, have a clear view on how to solve the problem and go forward. One of the people who mentors me is my first boss. So that's going back many years now. And I still call him when I have problems of a certain nature, shall I say, because he's very different to me. But we don't talk all the time, but he's always there for me. And I really value that ability to get to consult with someone when I really need that sort of viewpoint, that I know he'll have very clear views on, even if mine are a little bit muddy. So my network is really, really important to me. And I do use it constantly.
Mm-hmm. What advice would you offer to women who would like to follow in your footsteps?
Well, I can say that I don't think anyone follows anyone's pathway. Everyone's pathway is individual. But for me, aside from my network, I have always looked at opportunity and evaluated it, and decided whether it was for me or not. So, that has caused some of the twists and turns in my career that anyone will face at different points in time. I think that my technological skills are one of my very, very key skills that I have. I know that they have allowed me to make decisions about various times in my career where I needed those skills to be able to really do my best and do the best for my team. I now have very good management skills as well. So I use those. And those are something to be really valued. Everyone should take on management roles when they are ready to. They actually tested me at one point. I'm not very good on psychology because I've never really taken psychology courses. So I couldn't really play with the test, as it were. But in the end, the results showed that I had the sort of normal characteristics for someone who is a manager, and especially in the area of technology. So my instincts were right. This was what I should be doing. And that gave me a great deal of confidence to keep going, I think that's really what I'd say to people. Take the opportunities that you get offered. Mm-hmm. Never be afraid of them.
Mm-hmm. Are there any interesting current projects or future projects that you'd like to share that you're working on?
So I aside from my governance roles, which I love to do because they use all of my skills and all of my experience. I'm actually working on a project called Lectern. Is still operating sort of at a very initial level at the moment. But what I am trying to do is build products. I'm a product builder. That's what I've always done. And which will allow people to save more for their education, let families to save for their kids. If you know what the environment is like in the UK right now, you will be well aware that young people are graduating with over £50,000 worth of debt for 3 years of university in England. Every one of the countries in the United Kingdom has a different number on that. But that is too much because they can't save for a house and they can't save for their retirement. And in fact, our young people are starting to make decisions about not going to university in order to get a job so that it's more immediate and they don't have the debt at the end. I think that will have a long-term impact on the country. And in fact, we know it has a long-term impact because your GDP is linked to the education level of your workforce. So it won't happen today. It'll happen over a sort of period of 7 to 10 years. But I think it needs to be addressed. And therefore, Lectern is meant to allow people to save more money. It will rely on artificial intelligence to deliver this the best way possible so that people learn financial literacy alongside being able to save their money. And we'll deliver that more cheaply in a more tailored way and with better results and outcomes. So I think it's something that's really needed immediately to address this problem, because we need our people going to university. We need additional technical skills. That's just that will drive this economy forward, and we need it for the deployment of AI.
I can definitely relate to that. I have 2 girls as well, and I know a lot of parents are worried about this fact. Actually, I would like to learn more about it as well. So if people wanted to learn more about this project that you're working on or to get in touch with you, how can they reach out?
I'm on LinkedIn. So I think that's the best way to reach out to me. Okay. Rather than giving you an email address, you can get me through there and I'll give you my email address through there. But I'm very happy to talk to people about anything. So any of my loves, of technology, education, governance, any of that.
So where do you see yourself in the next 5 years, and what legacy would you like to leave behind?
In the next 5 years, I will continue with my governance roles. I was very, I found doing the AI strategy very challenging and interesting because there are still quite a few unanswered questions for people in governance roles around AI. And we came, we finished our strategy. I think it's been really well done, but it will need to be revised constantly, given the way the market is changing so rapidly at the moment. And as people become more AI literate, as AI is adopted more broadly, as agents come on, we'll need to adjust that and especially look at our risk levels and make sure that we're happy with them. So I'll continue to do that. I'll continue to build Lectern, and hopefully the legacy will be that you have a better, more financially literate society that's saving a bit more money and has a more stable foundation financially, basically, because I think in these very turbulent times, people need that.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with the people watching or listening to you today?
It's been interesting. One of the things that I have been doing is doing a lot of reading in order to sort of clarify my own thoughts around artificial intelligence. I am a great reader anyway, so it's no hardship for me to read. But I've been very particular in trying to find work that has been written to sort of expand my thinking around it. And it, for instance, I was reading an FT article one day, and they mentioned it was a speech at Oxford, a philosophy speech, and it's given to all the Oxford doctorates actually to read when they come. So I read that. I read a book that was written in the 1960s that's about scientific development and the process of it, because I found it on a reading list for, there's a professor at Notre Dame who publishes his reading lists on his artificial intelligence courses on X. And so I used that as a way to choose some text to read. So it's been really looking around and trying to build my own philosophy around this, so that we know that we can deploy AI ethically. We can make sure that we've got the right data that we need, that it's identifying bias, which it should. It shouldn't be biased. It should identify bias. It should make our employees more efficient, and it actually should make us better decision makers, because we should have better access to data. So, I will continue to do that for a while. There's a lot out there.
Thank you so much, Lida, for sharing a very inspiring journey. And we hope to see you at future UKAI events as well. And we look forward to you maybe even speaking at some of those events.
I'm very much looking forward to seeing what UKAI does. This industry is going to develop very quickly over the next year to 2 years, and really want to be involved in that. So I hope to see you all in person soon.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks, Zahra.